Welcome to Raw Painting. In this video series, we're just going to be painting miniatures. You're going to get a bird's eye view of me just painting miniatures. It's raw, uncut. We're going to post it as it's recorded, so there's never any telling what's going to be said. If you like watching miniatures being painted, if you've got tips, tricks you want to pick up, if you want to add any content in the comments below, I'll be happy to reply to them. And let's just jump in and paint some miniatures. All right, nothing to it but to do it. So, we've got our frost giant, the first couple of coats on his beard, and I think it's coming out pretty decent so far. Definitely seeing that ash blonde color starting to come alive. So we're going to move up into the next tone. And this time we're going to be laying in more purposeful highlights. I apologize. I'm trying to make sure we get good video. Wow, that's pretty stark. I'm going to do a tester there. Just going to lay that color on and give it a moment. I may need to tone that down just for better blending. You can see how sharp that color is, and that's just a small section. Wow, that definitely has a very bright tone. So I'm going to blend that down a little bit with the previous color. I just don't like the way it's so contrasted there. So on this side, we're going to pick an area and give a little bit in here. With this muted down just a hair, and see how that lays in. Much better than that bright contrast. So I'm going to let that bright contrast dry before I touch it, because I don't want to remove the paint. The last thing you want to do is remove paint. I'll go in and start laying these tones in. Now, depending on the sculpt, this process can change out a little bit. So if they're sculpted with more like flat hair, I call it, where it's just the indication of where the hair is and there's a little bit of texture but not much, this process changes a lot. Because then you have to paint in more like individual bits of hair. This fellow here has been sculpted with a lot of texture in his beard, hair and beard. So we don't have to do that as much. It's already indicated where those variances are. So we just have to mind the light. This guy, we're giving him his kind of light from above. The light is hitting this guy from above. So that's important as we're laying down the paint. Knowing that, we can easily decide where to lay in highlight and shadow colors. Again, I apologize if the angle is not right, but have not reviewed this and have not made any adjustments. So we'll know once it goes live. Once we publish, we'll know what changes we need to make. Until then, we're going to keep plugging along, because that's what we do with raw painting. It's me sitting here painting with you. If you're at work and just need something on in the background, I hope this is something that you can enjoy. I know you could stream some music. I won't be streaming any music, but I'm going to be talking about the miniatures that I'm painting, talking about my games. And who knows what other subjects we might cover. Who knows? Give that brush a quick glow. Really clean. And get right back into applying some paint. And then because this is blended down, still going to look more kind of patchy color. And hair. I know there are a lot of good tutorials online. If you're curious about hair, I find that by highlighting the tips really makes it look good. And then also, of course, any high points, anywhere the light is really going to be hitting it. But the tips, for me, is very important. I want those tips to be lighter. So I am progressively getting lighter and lighter as I get closer to the tips of the hair. It looks like that one section is dry now, so I can go back in and blend this down a little bit. Oh yeah, much better into the regular color. And pop a little bit in there. That's a high point. And just a little bit in there near his cheek. Now this will allow us to get up to the next brighter color pretty easy. Then on these back sections, just again lighter and lighter so we get closer to the tip of the hair. And the very tips will get the brightest color. If he were a heroic mini, that brightest color would be pure white. But because this is a villain or a bad guy, I don't go with the pure white. While it is great for contrast, I save that type of detail just for the heroic PCs that I paint. looking through that lens, one of those strands, I'm actually going to go back to the previous color. Yeah, just give it a little bit more highlight back. Yeah, better. So much depth in that beard. Some of those aren't coming across as good as what you hope. That's okay. That's why we use thin, multiple coats. It's the thin, multiple coats that allow us to layer. And get more definition. So that we're getting that kind of ash blonde look, as though he has been to a stylist, use some products from the Beard Struggle to keep a lush and healthy beard. But he's also a warrior, a frost giant warrior. Who deals with a lot of cold and ice. I thought about doing some type of an ice effect into his beard, actually. I'll move one of my lights a little bit. Hope that helps give a little bit more clarity on here. I'm doing a little bit of the undersides with this shadow or this highlight color here, just because that'll help drive further definition and multiple angle, look. You'll be able to see these painted details from multiple angles. That helps keep it from being just two-dimensional in paint appearance. So when you look at it, it highlights the 3D of the miniature, really draws your eyes to it. Again, just multiple thin layers right over top of each other. And that's how we achieve it. Progression gets more and more contrasted, and those details are easier to see, easier to visualize. especially on those beard tips. Like I said, those beard tips for me, that's the highlighted spot. That's where you really drive the effect home once we get into that layer. All right. Pretty decent so far. Now we can go back to that brighter color that was supposed to be the next step. It was a little too contrasted or bright. Popped out way too much. And this application, again, just nice and thin. I'm going to be doing backwards. You'll see me start at the base, at the tips. Blending into that previous color. And here I really pay attention to those tips because, like I said, this is where it really sells the effect of hair. If you do photography or even just researching for miniature painting, hair can be a tricky item. Probably black hair is the one that I think is the most challenging. There are so many different things that play into it. It's hard to represent with paint because you've got impacts from, you know, what light source is hitting it, to is it a dyed hair where it picks up a lot of red. Does it have more of a sheen of a blue? There are so many variations to painting black hair. It can be such a challenge. But I also think I need to practice more with it too. Practice makes perfect. Maybe that's what I'll do for New Year's. I will make a commitment to do 3 minis with black hair because I need the practice. working so far? Two more colors on this beard, and we're going to be done with the beard. And then we're going to attach the arms. Yep, you heard it here. I suppose you wouldn't have heard it anywhere else, but that is my goal, is to finish this hair and attach the arms in this segment of raw. Again, I apologize. Once in a while I'm checking out to see the camera angle, see how it's showing up on the camera, and I'm realizing I'm having a little more challenge keeping it in focus. So it is possible that this setup is not going to work. I may have to go back to that bird's eye view. The biggest concern there that I have is making sure that the microphone is in a good spot. What do you think? How's it looking? Alrighty. Let's jump into our next color. Second to last. Second to last. Paint-wise, someone was asking me the other day what I used for paints. So just to keep you all informed, I use different paints. I've got some that are Reaper. I've got some that are Citadels. I've got some that are P3s. I use whatever I can get my hands on. For some reason, it has varied over the years on what I'm able to find for paints in game stores in different areas. I've had to move quite a bit, so different game stores in different areas carry different paints. I try to order some online when I need them. But Paints can be so expensive. That I don't order a ton at a time. Well, I'd certainly like to. Order what I need when I need it, kind of deal. So you'll see on the desk, especially as we try different angles and everything, different brands and different ages for that matter on the paints that I use. Let's get that hair. I'm kind of glad this miniature is of bones. The bones have a really good weight for use on tabletop, especially for enemies, where you're moving them in and out a lot more frequently. I used to be, just die-hard metal. As far as the miniatures, fan of metal miniatures over anything else. But these bones have been very, very impressive in my opinion, in that a lot of the, especially early on, plastic miniatures did not have great detail. They lost a lot of the detail, but I really think they've solved that problem with 3D printing and bones. Bones, in my opinion, are fantastic for the detail they have. Just absolutely blows me away. The amount of detail they're able to get in these miniatures. How's that looking for you? Not too shabby, I don't think. I'm pretty happy with it. One more coat. And this, for his beard, is going to be his highest level of paint. Except I'm not ready for it. Because I did not prep my pure white. Now we're getting it. And I have to do a little bit of mixing. Oh. Kill my hot light. Again, a little more challenging setup, so I apologize. Boy, that's a pretty strong contrast there. Bear with me. I want to see how that dries out, because that contrast may be too much for what I'm looking for. If you can see it good in the camera there. I'm going to actually blend that a bit more. It's just a little too bright. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's better. So we're going from one color to the next, and I know it's wet, but with my eye I can see that's a little bit better. All right, back to the tips. Most important part, the part that is going to define the end of his beard and his hair. but I'm more worried about the beard. The hair, not so much, for a couple of reasons. That hair is sitting against that, I'm calling it polar bear, but that off-white pelt. And with that, if we go lighter and lighter, it's going to disappear into that cloak or cape, fur. So that's an example where you can do too much harm. And here I'm just picking out the highest points. Anywhere I feel that light would be hitting that beard, as well as the tips. And just multiple thin layers. And here I'm really trying to define just each and every little hair that I can, where there's sculpts to allow me to do so. Now with this fellow here, since we started him out, I've given a couple of indications for the base. I am so looking forward to getting this guy done and working on the base. I've got it pictured in my head of the snow base that I want to do for him. So I'm really looking forward to that. Look at that guy. All we've got left to do on the body, as far as paint, is the helmet. And then, of course, the detail work that we're going to do on that pouch. Real quick, we're going to start attaching his arms. So I've already sent or sprayed a sealing coat on his arms and body prior to painting. So we're going to take his arms and position them and resin them in place. There's the first one. Wow. And when I did in my test fit, I thought about turning the axe so it was facing more towards the front, which you can do some repositioning on bones with a hot water and then frozen water. but I did not, just because, again, this is a villain, not a hero. So I was not too concerned about having it perfect as far as how he anatomically looked. He is there to wreck some PC heroes, and that's it, and that's all. And put in the second arm. And generally, depending on the sculpt, if there are gaps, which you can see a couple here and there, I like to put those together and use green stuff to fill those gaps and flesh it out and everything again. This is for my own personal tabletop use. I'm looking at him more as someone I can put on the table to show size, scale, and what the PCs are encountering. So I wasn't too overly worried about it when I did the test fitting. And overall, I think he's turning out pretty decent so far. Pretty impressive, pretty impressive. We're going to set him to the side. And while we're here, I'm under 40 minutes. So I'm going to go back to one of the detail pieces that we have left unattached, which is this treasure chest and bag. And I'm just going to go through and do the base coat on this little treasure chest. And because this is just a base coat, I'm not looking for perfect. I just want to get this base coat and then a shading coat done so I can attach it to the Mini. So when we were on break, I went through and washed the treasure chest, because remember I had handled it in the last session so I could paint the shadow coat on the pack, this green bit. So I went through and washed it and then sealed it so that I can again wash it after handling it by the green pack. Definitely a heck of a process. And for a tabletop Mini of my own, a little more than I normally do, but with me publishing this as a raw painting, I want to do the best paint job I can for you, based on what I'm painting in a reasonable amount of time. While I was on break at that last little bit, I actually was thinking about what we're going to paint next. And I do have those little ones pulled aside for me to do while I'm in between layers, letting things dry. I've got the golems that we're going to continue to work on here and there. But I think we are going to jump right to our white dragon next. Just something that is itching to be done. Again, a part that I initially ordered for one of the campaigns that I'm running. The PCs faced the white dragon, and I didn't have a proper Mini for him. Her, whatever the dragon was a dragon that needed stopped. The PCs were successful even without the mini on the table, but it's always so cool to drop a mini on that battle map. All right, and that's just a quick coat for the wood. I'll let that dry real quick. And while that's drying, I think we're going to do another dry brush on our stone golem of a, let's do the next lighter gray. And pull him out here. So many I've got to clean my desk off so bad. And this here for this light gray will really start to pop out some of the details on this golem even further. Of course, we painted this, washed it with a dark wash, and then began dry brushing. And the goal is for this fellow to look like he is made out of stone. From the top of his squared off head to his carved out toes. Just a quick dry brush. Progressively lighter and lighter colors. And just a light, soft touch. What do you think? Does he look like he's made out of stone? Excuse me. Nope, I don't have the Rona. Just a cough. Just a cough. And one trick with dry brushing is the more you do, the lighter the effect. So, if you want to make his face really stand out, hit that a little bit further. That chiseled chest down into the cracked skirt and toes. Envisioning where the light is going to hit. It's going to be above. So we want to make sure we're evaluating it from the top down and giving those light transitions from the top down. That's why I'm brushing from the top down. That'll pull that color in the direction we want. There is our stone golem. Ugly fella. Again, the miniature itself is a little funky on that large of a base, but that's their size in Dungeons and Dragons. So when you compare it to a standard mini, I mean, they are pretty big. So we'll take it. Now I've got to seal that guy and do the base for him. And we've got one more just about off the shelf of shame. And we're just over 45 minutes, so I think we're going to take a break there and see if we come back to paint some more for raw painting. Hope you enjoyed. Of course, we're going to have the end title sequence asking you to subscribe. Please help us grow. When we hit 25, we're going to be giving away a t-shirt. That's our first stretch goal. So 25 subscribers. Share, give us the thumbs up, and I hope you enjoy. Help us grow. Have a fantastic night. Thanks for watching our video. We hope that you enjoyed it, and we'd love to have you subscribe. Feel free to hit that button if you care to get notifications for when we post new content. Leave your comments below and help us answer the question of where will your adventures take you. Enjoy.